Okay, good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the Upper Llagas Creek Flood Protection Project pre-construction public meeting. When we last gathered in 2019 in this room for phase 2, this is for phase 3 of that project. This meeting is being recorded for anyone who couldn't participate or who wants to view this meeting at a later time. And there'll be a link to this video available on the Upper Llagas Creek project webpage and the Valley Water YouTube channel in the next couple days. My name is Mike Potter. I lead our community outreach here at Valley Water, and it's great to be with you tonight. For our online audience, if you would like to ask a question, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and not the chat box, where it could go unnoticed. The staff will respond to your questions during the meeting so that way everybody can hear them. Today, we're going to learn about the construction activities plan for the final phase of the Upper Llagas Creek Flood Protection Project, potential construction impacts on neighbors and businesses, and the measures we will take to address and minimize these impacts, and the project construction timeline. I want to welcome your Valley Water Board Director, John Varela. Director Varela is a former mayor and council member for the city of Morgan Hill, where we are now standing. Represents the communities of Gilroy, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and parts of the East and South San Jose. Please welcome Director Varela.
Usually I get a standing ovation. I'm really disappointed, but thank you for welcoming me here. Yeah, Mr. Potter, staff, really appreciate being here in front of a family from Morgan Hill and all the others that are in South County. So if you don't know who I am, I'm John Varela. I'm your director from Valley Water District 1, which is a pretty large district from the eastern foothills of San Jose south over the Santa Teresa into the open space, beautiful Coyote Valley, city of Morgan Hill, unincorporated area of San Martin, and the city of Gilroy. That's what I represent. And it's a large swath of territory, but it's the prettiest. And look where we are, in Morgan Hill, where I live. So it's really special for me to be here with you tonight to talk about what we're doing. So thank you for attending tonight's meeting as we prepare the final construction phase of the long-awaited project, the Upper Llagas Creek Flood Protection Project. I also welcome neighbors who are participating by the virtual Zoom. Hello, everybody in Zoom land. And thank you to the city of Morgan Hill and your staff for being here tonight. They have been committed, partnering through the life of this project with the mayor and the former mayor that were involved in this from the very beginning. When we first began this project. And as some of you know, I served as mayor and council member. And when I was mayor and city council member, this building didn't exist. My name doesn't appear, but others like Dennis Kennedy and other followers that were here at that time that I served with on the city council, they made these improvements in our community happen. So we're really excited about all the improvements that we've done together over the years. So it's nice to be in this room again with you. But this project is important to me as it will reduce the risk of flooding, provide recreational and open space opportunities, and deliver environmental biological benefits. Once we complete the final phase of the project, approximately 1,100 homes, 500 businesses, over 1,300 acres of agricultural land will be protected from 100-year flood. That's saying quite a bit for what the threats are if we don't do this project. The final phase of this project needed to secure additional funding to begin construction. So our board of directors and my colleagues turned to Congresswoman Zoe Lockton and the Natural Resources Conservation Service of the United States Department of Agriculture, recognizing the importance of the project. They provided $80 million in federal grant funding, not a loan, contributed to the completion of the critical flood protection project. I want to emphasize that this is not a loan, but a grant to our community to complete this incredible, critical project. This is another example of the collaboration and commitment in bringing flood protection to our community, to our citizens, to all of us that live in South County. Valley Water thanks all the residents for their support and patience as construction ramps up. Thank you all for listening and thank you for being here. Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Director Varela, for all your work and longevity here at Morgan Hill. For today's presentation, two presenters will provide details on the construction of the Upper Llagas Creek Flood Protection Project. Please welcome our two presenters, Stephen Ferrante, Capital Engineering Manager, and Melissa Moore, a Senior Water Resources Specialist.
Thank you, Mike. So thank you everyone for attending tonight's good news meeting. That's what I call this. This is a long time in the making. This project started in 1954. So it's been a while. I started the project in 2012. And it's been a long battle. A lot of obstacles. Took us 7 years to get the regulatory permits. This is the longest flood protection project the Valley Water's ever done. It's almost 14 miles in length. So it's quite an undertaking to get all the resource agencies to agree on mitigation. And I'll let Melissa talk about the mitigation. She is the one that made the permits happen. They are very good permits. For one instance, our construction window starts May 1st. I've been at Valley Water 38 years, and I've never seen a construction project start May 1st, other than this one. Most of them, when I first got to Valley Water, was April 15th. Or excuse me, May 15th. So, you know, it's quite a thing. And shortly thereafter was June 1st, now it's like June 15th. So having a May 1st start window is incredible. I'm sure Granite Rock, is our contractor, appreciates the extra time and the channel to do these improvements. So with that said, I'm going to turn this over to Melissa Moore to do the first part of the presentation. And like I said, she's responsible for this project. I do want to recognize Chris Gioni, the city of Morgan Hill. Chris. And I also want to recognize Knock Fam, who this was not done by just me. Wasn't done by just Melissa. Knock Fam and Chris Komos are the 4 members of the project team. And of course, all the other supporting units of the district. Anyway, here, Melissa.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? I talk really loud anyway, so I don't feel like I need this, but I'm gonna go ahead. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what has been done. Oh, well, okay, we should have had this slide up, but welcome everybody. And I do want to say thank you. I know it's the day after Labor Day. We're very, very grateful for you coming out and seeing us. We're gonna talk about the project status, and we're gonna talk about next steps. Oh, for the Zoom people. Okay, is it better? We're gonna talk about the status, next steps, and then we'll do a question and answer. And I'll kind of wing through these fairly quickly so that we can leave lots of time for questions, because anytime you go to construction, there's a lot of questions. This is the overall project, the Upper Llagas Creek Flood Protection Project. It is 13.9 miles long. As Mr. Ferrante said, it is our largest flood protection project geographically. We start in unincorporated Gilroy, south of Buena Vista, about 1,000 feet south of Buena Vista, all the way up through San Martin, both sides of Interstate 101 or Highway 101, East Little Llagas on one side, Reach 6 on the other side. That takes us all the way up here to Reach 7, 7B, and 8. Was there anything? Oh, it does work. I can't get it to work. Always the technical difficulties still. Yeah, I couldn't get it to work, but you guys can all see the reaches, I'm sure. This project was phase 1, which started 2019, September 3rd, 2019. It was completed in May 2020. I'll move to the next slide here. Phase 2A, which is still currently under construction, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. That's the tunnel underneath Nob Hill. That phase is almost completed construction. So this is the long history of flooding. And I do have to say, having lived in Santa Clara County and working in flood protection, Morgan Hill is pervasively flooded. Year after year, even on small rain events, we do see localized flooding. It is, it's a serious problem, and I'm so pleased that we are able to address some of this with this project. As I'm sure the residents are very pleased as well. Our project objectives for Reaches 7 and 8 is to provide a 100-year level of flood management. Reach 14, the East Little Llagas, That provides a 10-year level of flood management and reaches 4, 5, 6 is no induced flooding. The project benefits do include flood protection, improving habitat for fish in stream. And I'm not sure who knows this, but reaches 4, 5, and 6 is critical habitat for the south central coast of steelhead trout. So we do have some features in our project that will benefit the trout immediately post-construction. We did create a wetlands. We restored 2,000 linear feet of Llagas Creek. We are improving water quality, and we are removing hundreds and hundreds of acres of trash and debris from this waterway. So phase 1 construction, this was the one that we started in 2019 and was completed in 2022. You can see Reach 4 was completed, Reach 5, a tiny little portion of Reach 14 that's in purple there. And up to the top here, we completed Lake Silvera, which I'll explain in a little bit more detail. We also completed a tiny little portion of Reach 6, and then we completed Reach 7A. And you guys likely, most folks have probably seen Reach 7A in the lake as you're driving by Monterey Road, right by Bronco's Towing there. Lake Silvera is our compensatory mitigation project. And what that means is whenever a public agency goes into a waterway and we do damage. And in this particular case, the damage is widening and deepening the stream channel as well as removing the vegetation. We need to mitigate those impacts. We call it compensatory mitigation. While it is required by law, there's many forms of compensatory mitigation. And what's really exciting about Lake Silvera is that it has dramatically improved the local conditions for fish and wildlife here in Morgan Hill. Lake Silvera, and for those who didn't grow up in Morgan Hill, it used to be an old quarry. I have a hard time with that word quarry, but a quarry pit where they extracted gravels for the construction of Highway 101 in the 70s. And the previous landowner cut the levee between the quarry and Llagas Creek, and it actually formed like a swimming hole, which was really pretty bad for the fish and wildlife locally at Lake Silvera. So what Valley Water did is we created a wetlands at the lake. You can see the islands. I don't have a pointer, but you can see the islands in the lake. This is to provide wildlife refuge for precocial birds, birds that like to nest on the ground. There's quite a suite of birds at Lake Silvera, readily utilizing the trees and the waterway, but they do get by terrestrial predators such as feral cats, which we have a lot of in this watershed, as well as raccoons, etc. So these islands are meant to provide safe havens for birds that nest on the ground, as well as western pond turtle, which is a listed turtle that we do have living at Lake Silvera. So in addition to creating the wetlands, we restored 2,000 linear feet of Llagas Creek that flows around the lake. This section of creek was dry for about 50 years. When the landowner cut the northern levee, it dewatered that section of Llagas Creek. So we have essentially restored water and flow to the stream, and it is functioning really quite well. In addition to restoring the stream, we removed 13 acres of Himalayan blackberry from the site. I don't know if any of you have been to the site prior to construction. You might remember the walls up to 15 feet high of the Himalayan blackberry that unfortunately had colonized the lake and was taking over the lake essentially. So we have removed it and do have it controlled. Oh yeah, we just brought, so NIMS, the National Marine Fisheries Service, recognized the lake. Most recently, we had their regional office come and look at the lake as a model for essentially for steelhead restoration. So there we go. I can tell the difference. So yeah, we were very proud of that. We're proud to have an environmental project, even though it is mitigation, but an environmental project that is recognized by our Fish and Wildlife partners. Okay, we also partner with the city of Morgan Hill. Yay, Chris Jim. Yeah, he's been great and really great to us. City of Morgan Hill has built, trails on the northern portion of Lake Silvera. These are open currently to the public. You can see from Watsonville Road to Middle Avenue, it's the east side only. But we do have both sides of the trail, here and all the way down to the lake. So this is a really nice, little walk, and one of these days, we are going to have trails all the way into downtown Morgan Hill. So all these neighborhoods back here can simply walk to Fourth of July events and various community events. So it's a really nice, public attraction. We're really proud of that as well, and thank you, City of Morgan. Phase 2A, as I mentioned, is still under construction, but we're almost finished. And some of you might know that by the intersection of Hale and Main being open for traffic once again. So we're very pleased about that. A tunnel has been constructed underneath I can't point to it, but right here in the middle, as well as twin box culverts, both upstream and downstream of the tunnel to connect to the creek. And I'll show you some photos of that. That's the tunnel on the left and construction of the box culvert in here. And that leads us to phase 2B, and Mr. Ferrante, he'll take over about the next phase of construction.
Thank you, Melissa. So I just want to define everyone know what a reach is? Keep using that word. It's basically from one street to another street. And then the phases are a bunch of reaches. So there's been 3 phases with multiple reaches in each phase. So there was phase 1 that Melissa said included reach 4, or reach 5, and reach 7A. So that was phase 1. Phase 2 was just a portion of, which is the tunnel that you just saw in the box culvert construction. That was a portion of reach 8. So that leads us to phase 2B. The last phase, as everyone said, so this includes reach 6, reach 7, reach 8, and reach 14. So starting with reach 6, that's the one in red. That's by the airport. Reach 14 is on the east side of the airport. And then reach 7, we call 7B. 7A was the new channel between Watsonville south of Lake Silvera. And I just gotta answer this question right now, because when it rained last year, January of 2023, I must have had 20 emails. How come the check dam is not removed upstream of Watsonville Road? You guys construct this channel and you don't let water go to it, right? Downstream of Watsonville Road. The reason for that is the area in red. If we open that up, we can do flooding to those folks there, because that channel hasn't been approved yet. So this is gonna be the first year, next summer, that excavation will take place. So we're hoping, we don't, everything goes well. We'll be able to remove that check dam just upstream of Watsonville in October of next year. So that channel will be open, but we have to make the improvements in red. So the other areas where I said reach 7B, that's from Cialino to Watsonville. That has public trails, and we'll talk about that, existing trails. And those will be impacted for a short time during construction, that we'll get into. And then the rest is reach 8, which is along Hale Avenue up to Llagas Road. Okay, so we're gonna go by reaches again. This is reach 6 along the west side of the airport, and reach 14 along the east side of the airport. Basically from 101 Llagas Avenue, reach 6, and then from the confluence with the green is, I should say, the green is east of Llagas Creek, and the red is west of Llagas Creek. And they meet, you just see at the bottom of they meet just off the page there. Well, they meet, well, the main stem of Llagas is here. So this is the main stem of Llagas, and west of Llagas, we'll get into the next thing. So that's the east of Llagas. This is Llagas Creek. Okay, so this is west of the Llagas Creek from Watsonville Road to Cialino, that's reach 7B. Then the last reach is down here is West Main at the very bottom right corner, and at the very top is Llagas Road. So we're gonna clear and grub, we're hoping to do that actually in the next 6 weeks in reach 6. As I said earlier, we're hoping to get that done next summer, but we need to clear and grub. Why is it important to clear and grub? Nesting birds. So there's requirements that if we have nests in the spring, that we're not gonna be able to do construction with a certain perimeter of that, depending on the type of species of bird. So it's important we can get rid of all those potential trees that may be nesting places, and then be able to do the construction next summer. So we're widening and deepening the creek. We've got bridge modifications at both Church Avenue on Reach 6 and Reach 14, San Martin Avenue, August Avenue. We also have them at Eads, Cosmo, and Spring. We're doing work on each of those goals. So we're building maintenance roads along each banks in most cases. There'll be perimeter fencing along the right of way. And there's the twin culverts you saw in phase 2A, there was twin culverts. Those culverts are 9 feet by 10 feet, basically two-lane road underground. So we're continuing that effort, about 1,900 feet of it. Then the Hale Avenue improvements. One of the things we're doing is we partnered with the city of Morgan Hill. And if you know Hale Avenue right now between Main and Wright, there's a ditch along the east side, which is west of Llagas Creek. Well, the culverts are gonna be in the middle of the street, and that ditch becomes useless, it gets filled in. We're taking the opportunity to widen that street with this project, once we fill that in. So, instead of us building it, and then the city coming back in and then closing the street, doing whatever they need to build at, we combine the projects basically. It's a good thing. While we're there, we just do city improvements as well. So this is revegetation will be included in 2B. This is near Lake Silvera right here, downstream of Monterey Road, the picture on the left. And then with in-stream structures for fish and wildlife, Melissa kind of talked about, and you can see the woody debris in the channel. And that provides habitat for fish and wildlife. So as Melissa talked about Himalayan blackberries and arundo, we have a lot of invasive plants, which we end up removing and eradicating. And the reason for this, it allows the revegetation of the native trees and vegetation that we're going to install to prosper, right? They're not competing with this invasive plants. Okay, and this. So one of the last slides here is the remediation sites, the removal of legacy trash and debris. So this is part of what we encountered in phase 1. And you can see this was just along the banks or in the creek. A lot of debris out there. Some of the greenhouses, they need their plastic along the top of bank, and then the tires, we all know about tires and creeks, fortunately. So what to expect during construction? You're going to see a lot of construction equipment. You're going to be seeing a lot of hauling of material off the job site. You're going to see stockpiling material. Before we can haul off material, we have to actually test it. Make sure it's clean, reusable soil. If it's not, it gets designated where it needs to go. Best management practices will be used. That's like dust control and construction noise. Traffic control, especially in downtown Morgan Hill. And then trail closures in Reach 7B, which I talked about, that's between Watsonville and Cialino. And then aerial drones. We frequently fly the drones to get a kind of a time lapse of the construction before, during, and after, to show the how the project has evolved during construction. We also do it for survey control. So there's frequent biological surveys and site security measures, including temporary fencing. So the construction schedule is about 2.5 years from this month until March of 2027. And then we have a 3-year plant establishment. We have tens of thousands of plants, probably someone in the neighborhood of 50, 60,000. Yeah, that'll be planted. So, and then that 3-year plant establishment follows after the construction. And working hours are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturdays 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And no work on Sundays unless special cases or emergencies. And that needs prior approval. So for those that live along the creek, obviously if you think something's wrong and there's an emergency situation, please call 911. If you just have questions about the project, Jose is right here, Villarreal, and that's his email and his phone number. You can call him. Then I have Granite Rock, who's the contractor for this phase, and they were also the contractor for phase 1. They're very familiar with the project, which is good for everybody. And there's Granite Rock's phone number if you have any questions about, I guess, construction activity, but we encourage you to talk to Valley-wide first. So post-construction, this is kind of the city of Morgan Hill for future and current. So we're going to restore all the trails between Watsonville Road and Cialino, provide additional trails. Like I said, we typically have maintenance roads on both sides. There's one section in 7B that does not have a trail on both sides, but for the most part, the whole reach has trails on both. We'll end up having trails on both sides. So additional trail amenities, educational signage, and then with the trail access and the maintenance roads, which will be 18 feet wide, where the trail is 8 foot. So you're going to have another 10 foot. These are going to be wide roads and wide trails. And you're going to have police and emergency vehicle access, which you don't really have now in some cases. So future recreation opportunities that the city of Morgan Hill are considering is the pedestrian bridge crossing at Monterey Road and Llagas Creek. And then they have some parking concerns they're looking into for the trail access. Okay. That concludes. Melissa, can go ahead and get Mike back up here.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Melissa, for that presentation. Now we'd love to take some of your questions, and we'll switch between the in-person folks in the room and with the Zoom, but we're happy to hear from you as well. So, Jose, do we have anybody on Zoom to start us off yet with a question?
No question.
Okay, go ahead and put those in the question and answer portal. Any questions in the room? Mr. Muirhead, yes, let me bring this to you.
New procedure this time. Just as an aside, I was able to talk to a couple of the Granite Rock people as they were finishing the trail. My Lake Silvera, and I really liked it, and I thank them for that. So I'm pleased that we'll have more trails. My question is, actually, we're going to have some 100-degree temperature days. And so I'd like to know what sort of accommodation or protection of workers you have planned and what it might do to the construction schedule if we continue to have some really hot days.
Yeah, obviously Granite Rock takes precautions with their workers to make sure they're hydrated and then, they got shade, things like that. And just that, we said phase 1 started on September 3rd of 2019. We built the construction of that during the pandemic, which there was, nothing really good that came out of the pandemic. But the one thing is Granite Rock was able to build a huge portion of that project because a lot of the truckers were out of work. But I think we monopolized the Bay Area trucking, and we're able to haul off a lot of dirt working through the pandemic. And the reason why we were able to do that was because it was called an essential project, right? Eventually, this would provide public safety. So yeah, Granite Rock will take the necessary precautions to protect their workers.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Any additional questions in the room? Raise your hand, I'll come on over. Jose, do you have a question there? Let me give you the microphone.
Sure. So you talked a lot about the environmental benefits and then the plantings. Does Valley Water typically plant so much, into projects and, what's the benefit of doing this?
So one of the objectives of this project was to improve the overall ecology of Llagas watershed. Llagas watershed is heavily impacted by invasive species, as Mr. Ferrante showed you, the arundo, the blackberry. And one of the benefits of controlling the invasive species and planting native species is getting a self-sustaining riparian corridor. So that your children's children, all of our families into the future, we can have a vegetated riparian corridor that is readily available for fish and wildlife to use. So what we do is, when we plan for replanting or vegetation, is we look at the ecology of the area. How can we improve it as Valley Water? And in this particular case, it meant first removal of invasives and second follow-up planting with many trees and shrubs. As Mr. Ferrante said, phase 2 is 55 acres of planting and about 50,000 plants. And in phase 1, we planted 54 acres of vegetation with about 42,000 plants. So the plants that are selected are specifically selected for this watershed. The seeds are collected within the watershed itself, so that we do know that they are native in origin, and then they are grown locally at a watershed and brought to us when they're large enough to be put into the ground.
That's a significant number of plants there. We have a question here from, one of the residents joining us via Zoom. The question is, I didn't hear anything about Reach 8. When is that slated to start?
Reach 8 would be in the last summer construction season because that's the furthest upstream. As we want to build these projects, like I said, downstream to upstream, so we don't induce flooding. So you got to make the bottleneck bigger before you get up there. You can't build upstream. You can't build upstream first. So this is the very last reach of the project. There'll be elements of it constructed, like the Hale Avenue box over there. Granite Rock's looking at possibly doing that, a portion of that next summer. But before it's all opened up, will be the following summer in 2026.
Thank you. And we have a hand raised. Okay. Well, Dustin, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And that's your
Hi
question.
there. I'm Dustin. I'm a property owner. With the schedule that you showed earlier, does that include the completion of the Lomer-Clomer process?
No, the Lomar process will take place immediately following construction. One of the requirements is to submit the as-built to FEMA. We did try to expedite that future process. We did a Clomar for this project that was approved by FEMA, and that Clomar means conditional letter of map revision. So basically we said, here's what we're doing in the future, approve it. So when we submit the final as-built on the project, we're hoping that they could just check a box and say, oh yeah, we've already done a condition, we've already looked at this, this is the way the maps are gonna change. And we hope that process will help expedite that process. So that process typically takes at least a year, unfortunately. So if we're talking about, this project being completed in 2027, you're looking at maybe 2028, mid 2028 before, FEMA would consider this.
Explain to the audience what the impact of that decision is.
Yeah, so when the maps are revised based on the project improvements, there'll be letters sent out basically to insurance policy holders for flood protection, giving you now the option of whether you pay for flood insurance or not. So it'll be up to you, but you don't have that option right now. Okay. Good question, Dustin.
Got a couple in the room here. Let's bring it over here.
on any of the stream banks, you're gonna be using hardscapes such as avians or rock fill, or is it all just native material?
We use rust. There's no, well, I should say there's, at the bridges, we are underpinning and putting some concrete under the foundation for, Llagas Avenue. We're putting some rock in the abutments of bridges. San Martin Avenue, we're actually putting a low flow fish channel, concrete fish channel, and rock at that location. And that rock is used to protect the abutment, you know, both abutments for water, you know, avoiding getting behind the abutment and causing structural failure. So at the bridges mainly, there are some in channel grade control structures, basically so we don't get the channel. You know, we want it to flow steadily. So there are some routed that look like, I don't know, kind of like what would you call them? Like a C? Yeah, like a V. Some of them are shaped like, so they're V, maybe 10 foot in width and about, you know, to extend the width of the channel. So those are put in and they're grouted. There's some grouted rock in there. But that, like I said, is a grade control structure feature. Yeah, but no gabions are proposed for this pipe.
You know, I do want to just point out one thing about the size of the channel. Valley Water did what we call a geomorphic design, which means we designed the size of the stream channel so that we didn't get excessive erosion or deposition. And what that does is it keeps the channel open and free capacity for flood protection, but also keeps the sediment moving through the stream. Doesn't create any issues for macroinvertebrates or the basic food base for the stream itself. So these were ecological principles that were brought in through the various phases of design, so that we can get a stream channel, like I said, that functions like a stream channel, not a flood protection channel. And we're not looking for concrete lined straight, we're looking for a functioning channel. And there was quite a lot of work done on this project, and I think it's a really good test case for how you can balance flood protection and environmental.
Thank you for that. Just as a reminder as well, or maybe you would know, during a flood type event or a rainy storm, there are sandbags available in various locations in Morgan Hill. Is that not right? So should anybody need to provide?
Yeah, that's correct. And Firehouse off of Monterey Road in the north part of town. That sandbag's still over there. And there's some in Nature Fall. There's, you go to our website, it'll show the different sandbag locations.
Thank you. Question back here.
They're also available at the courtyard. So this is somewhat peripheral to your construction, but I use all of the West Llagas Creek Trail, and I report illegal dumping and I report graffiti. And there are sections of the existing trails, for example, from East Court north, that don't show up on your map of waterways that the district is responsible for on your customer request system, which is a bit frustrating. So as you actually open up these new segments of trails, please make sure that the system understands that they are your responsibility so that we can help you maintain them. Thank you.
Well, so I'm not sure that database, which is referring to.
The Access LA Water is probably my guess. So we need to make sure we update that to include the new beaches when they get.
Okay, yeah,
towards completion.
so the trails are a function of the city. The city has a joint use trail agreement, as you know, Doug, with Valley Water. So there's certain things that Valley Water is responsible for the channel and maintenance of that, whereas the city's responsible for the trail and the trail amenities.
Right, I
Okay.
only bother you for the ones I know you're responsible.
Okay,
Sophisticated.
very good.
We have another question from Zoom. Will Hell Avenue continue to widen north for Wright Avenue with the underground tunnel, or will the culvert be augmented as is?
So, Hale Avenue, the tunnel's done. So the tunnel was underneath Knob Hill, basically from, Main Avenue, just south of Main. Cialino, or not Cialino, but to, West Dunn. So West Dunn is the tunnel, basically from Main, or Warren Avenue to be specific. So the tunnel is just north of Warren Avenue. Runs down Hale up the hill to Nob Hill Terrace, turns along Nob Hill Terrace to, Del Monte, goes underneath the Nob Hill, the tank, and then comes out right before, the tunnel ends right before Dunn. Then it turns into transition into two, 10x9 boxes. They go to, that make that turn at Del Monte and Cialino. Reason why red is underneath Del Monte is we relocated the sewer in that location. So it was part of the work limits, but that was just a utility, say, relocation. But as far as Hale Avenue, currently has box culverts, the two twin 9x10 box culverts to about the middle of the parking lot of the supermarket area. The reason why we went that far was that we got past the driveway, so that the next phase of construction, there'll be access off of Main as well as Hale to the shopping center, and we could build everything north of that without impacting the shopping center. Now we have a different stage plan, so the two 10x9 boxes go from Hale to Wright Avenue and then turn into the northwest parcel where there'll be an intake structure built. And that's that vacant parcel you see there at Wright Avenue, just north of it. So the box culverts are, yes, will be extended up to Wright Avenue.
Thank you for that. We got one in the room here.
My place is just, north on Hale, right at, Stony Creek. And, I'm concerned about what would happen if there were blockage of those box culverts. I don't know what the CFS is that you're planning to accommodate with those culverts, but can they accommodate, the maximum flood that we've seen? And is there a possibility of big blockages from debris, trees and things?
Okay, good question. Yes, the boxes were designed, so, this intake structure that I talked about, it's actually like a bathtub. So when water comes down, we get a rain, it'll flow into a 36-inch pipe that runs along Hale Avenue on the east side. When that pipe gets full, it backs up into the intake structure, which is I call the bathtub. And the bathtub will fill up and then dump into the tunnel. So low flows that you see in downtown will still get water through downtown, but that constriction allows that only so much water to get downtown with the existing storm drains you have downtown. So that's why downtown gets protected. Now the overflow that goes into the tunnel is well big enough for the flows, 1%. Now, talking about debris and blockage, at the intake structure, there are grates that, periodically will have to be cleaned of debris. But the grates, allow for small debris to go through. Also at Cialino, there is a trash rack at the end of that one to catch any debris too, that can be cleaned.
During our flood events, these are monitored closely by our operations crews as well, 24/7. We'll respond if you see something, let us know during a.
So for the trash rack we now have on Hale, there's a camera on it. That goes to our emergency center, so they can just watch it, every hour or so during a event.
I've seen that trash rack at Main, completely blocked, water overflowing, pulling out through.
But we have a camera on it. For a while there was county responsibility to clean. Then we had an agreement with the county, between the county, the city and Valley Water. It was a right of way thing. And for the last 2-3 years, Valley Water's been responsible for the maintenance of that. So like I said, we have a camera on that. We moved the trash rack further up to the end of the construction of 2A. So we do have a camera there now watching that.
Thank you, Stephen. Any other questions in the room? Yes, right here, sir.
I have a couple, but one would be, you mentioned in passing that there may be a bridge over Monterey near Silver Lake.
So yes,
Is that water district or is that city or?
that's gonna be city. That was a city slide. I know that the city is, Chris Joni can probably give Chris a mic, he can probably answer better than me, but the city's looking into providing that pedestrian bridge at that location to link the south trail of Lake Silvera.
The other question would relate to the crossing at San Martin Avenue, that bridge there, and will there be eventually something over 101? To continue the trails, just curious.
Trail.
Some trail questions, and we're gonna,
Well,
our expert.
all I can say is right now, for any trails south of Monterey Road, there is not, trails were not part of our project south of that. So the city or county, in this case, the county south of Monterey Road, would have to go through the EIR process. And there's some, Valley Water does own a lot of the property and fee, but we do have some places where we have easement, and our easement doesn't cover. So there have to be some property acquisitions as well for recreation rights.
I just add that the city of Morgantown wouldn't do anything south of the creek of Llagas. That would be County of Santa Clara. In the old days, county parks had a plan to run a trail adjacent to it, but I do not think it's in any of their current plan.
Thank you. That voice was Chris Keone from the city of Morgantown, for those of you listening at home. Did you have another question?
So basically, when you mentioned the bridge over Monterey, that's the hope, and that's it.
No, I think it's a little more than a hope, but I'll let Chris expand on that since it's a city project.
The bridge would be adjacent, it would be a pedestrian bridge that Steven's talking about, adjacent to the vehicle bridge. And the purpose of that is so when you dead end in the trail that dead ends at Monterey Road right now, you'd be able to go across the creek and access the trail that's on the south side of Silvera Lake. That would be the purpose of the bridge. We are working on a project right now to finish the planning for several trails around there. And we'd be looking to get environmental clearance probably later this year or early next year, and then we'd be applying for grant funds to try and build it.
So it's basically over the creek, not over Monterey.
Correct.
Okay, I got that. My second question.
So let me just interrupt real quick. So it'd be right there at the bottom, very bottom of the, right there.
It's over the
Right
creek,
across
there's
the
the
creek.
bridge to get to the other side.
Right.
Like most bridges. Get to the other side. The second question is you mentioned hopefully in October of of 2025 to remove the dam at Watson. Right? That dam, is it, because just upstream, there's the creek, the original creek is there. Is that dam gonna be kind of a weir to allow only so much water to go into the existing creek that once was there and then flow over?
No, so the pedestrian bridge and that right now on the east bank, probably 200 yards north of Watsonville Road, that goes away. That actually gets relocated to Edmondson Creek. There'll be another crossing right there at the confluence with West Little Llagas. There'll be a new creek crossing there, trail crossing. There's one further down on Edmondson Creek, but this will be one closer for that neighborhood.
So that part of the original.
East Little Llagas, that's basically where it starts.
Yeah.
That'll just be for local drainage because we're actually deepening Llagas Creek there, so that the other creek would be, I think it's like 5 feet. The invert's higher than the new invert.
Gotcha.
So it would take a lot of work. So it's best just to, so we're gonna fill that in, it's gonna be a continuous trail.
Thank you for that. Any other questions in the room? Or any online, Jose? Give you a microphone so you can answer. Jose.
Question here, why is the final phase of the Upper Llagas Creek project so important? Would we still get flood protection without it?
Unfortunately, no, you need this last phase to experience or have the flooding protection. So without this last phase, we've just spent a lot of money and a lot of time widening and evening channels and providing.
Question here, funding question here. It's great to hear that we received $8 million from the National Resources Conservation Service in the final phase. How much is Valley Water putting in to complete this final and important phase?
So we have $80 million from NRCS. The low bid by Granite Rock was $129 million. Providing $49 million for the last phase of the Upper Llagas Creek project. So still a huge investment by the locals. But a hell of a lot less than $129 million.
Great question. Any others in the room? Sometimes these trigger other thoughts that you might not have had. This is your chance to ask the expert, but if you think of one tomorrow, you saw how to reach Jose on the screen. I'll bring that up and you can email him and he'll get a response. But otherwise, I think we've run through our questions and answers and would like to thank you all for participating in this terrific pre-construction meeting. And we will see you at the next phase of this project. Thank you.